Hello everyone, welcome to Shantha Lakshmi IAS. In this video, let us discuss about this legislation, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, which was in news recently. So why this particular act was in news? Because recently the Supreme Court has upheld several provisions of this act, ranging from the powers of the Enforcement Directorate and the procedure for conducting various operations under this act. So to begin with, so now before we go into the discussion of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, first let us understand what is meant by money laundering. So money laundering is nothing but the process of conversion of dirty money. That is the money earned through illegal means or activities to legitimate money, that is the good money. So money laundering is nothing but the process of conversion of dirty money to make it appear as the legitimate money. Means they earn the money through illegal means, and through this money laundering process they make this money look as they earned through the legal means only. This is known as the Money Laundering Act, and this involves the 3 stages, that is placement, layering, and integration. So how this money laundering process happens? Through 3 stages, that is placement, layering, and integration. In placement, first what they will do is that they accumulate the money from illegal activities and they place the money into the financial system. First, they accumulate the money through illegal activities and then place those money into the financial system. And then comes the layering. And in this stage, what they will do is that this money, where they place this money into the financial system, from this, they transfer the money. For what purpose? To hide the origin of the funds. And after this comes the integration. In integration, what they will do? They return the money for the money laundered to spend. That is for clean investments. So in this process, the dirty money earned through illegal activities will be claimed as a money earned through legal or legitimate activity. So these are the 3 stages involved in this money laundering process: placement, layering, and the integration. Now, let us see the background of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. In mid-1980s, there has been a global concern over the proceeds of criminal activities such as drug trafficking being laundered or used in financing terrorism. So that's why in 1988, the Vienna Convention was launched. That is the UN Convention Against Illicit Trafficking, Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances. That is adopted in Vienna Convention, and this was the first treaty that called upon nations to adapt domestic laws to combat drug trafficking. And as part of these laws, the countries were asked to prohibit the conversion or transfer of property gained through dealing in narcotics to conceal its illicit origin. And in 1989, in the G7 summit in Paris, the Financial Action Task Force was established in response to mounting concern over the money laundering. And the task force has made recommendations from time to time to strengthen laws on this subject for various nations. And in the year 2000, through Palermo Convention, the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime has been enacted, which also advocated legislative and other measures to combat organized crime and specially called for criminalizing the laundering of proceeds of crime. And following all these international obligations, India has launched this Prevention of Money Laundering Act in 2002, which came into force in 2005. So what were the international obligations which made India to launch the Prevention of Money Laundering Act? That is 1988 Vienna Convention, that is UN Convention against illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Then in 1989, Financial Action Task Force of G7, and in 2000, that is UN Convention against transnational organized crime. So these are the some international obligations which led India to enact a law on this money laundering, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So this is the background of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now let us deal with the provisions of this Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. So what are the objectives of this PMLA Act? There are three objectives, that is to prevent and control money laundering, and to confiscate and seize the property obtained from this money laundering, and to deal with any other issues connected with this money laundering. So what are the objectives? To prevent and control money laundering, to confiscate and seize the property, and to deal with any other issues related to the money laundering. So these are the three objectives of the PMLA Act. And what are the provisions of this Act? It defines the money laundering. That is, Section 3 of the PMLA Act defines the offense of money laundering as whosoever directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or knowingly assets or knowingly is a part or is actually involved in any process or activity connected with the proceeds of crime and projecting it as an untainted property shall be guilty of offense of money laundering. So who shall be the guilty of offense in this Money Laundering Act according to the definition Section 3 of this PMLA Act? So whosoever person, so whatever or whoever the individual is, whether directly or indirectly attempts to indulge in this process of conversion of the tainted property, that is tainted means spoiled or contaminated, that is dirty money earned through illegal means, that property into the untainted property means clean, good, like that, not spoiled or contaminated property. Those persons shall be accorded with the guilty of offense under this Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So whosoever person directly or indirectly attempts to convert the process of this tainted money into the untainted property shall be attracted as guilty of offense under this Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And what's the next provision? It prescribes obligation of banking companies, financial institutions, intermediaries for verification and maintenance of records of the identity of all its clients and also of transactions, and for furnishing information of such transactions in a prescribed form to the Financial Intelligence Unit, India, that is FIU, Ind. And what's the second provision? It prescribes the obligations for every financial institutions to maintain a list of records of the identity of all its clients and also the transaction, and along with that furnishing information of such transactions to the Financial Intelligence Unit. So this is the second provision in this PMLA Act 2002, and it empowers certain officers of this Enforcement Directorate to carry out investigations in cases involving in the money laundering and also to attach the property involved in that the money laundering. So third is the empowerment of officers in the Enforcement Directorate, and the fourth one is that setting up of authority. This PMLA also envisages the setting up of an adjudicating authority and the appellate tribunal for any disputes regarding this Money Laundering Act or cases. So what are the provisions in this PMLA Act? Definition of money laundering, the obligation for financial institutions, and empowerment under for Directorate of Enforcement, and setting up of authorities like adjudicating authority and the appellate tribunal. So now coming to the context in which we are discussing this topic, that is the Supreme Court judgment. The Supreme Court in Vijay Madanlal Chowdhury and others versus Union of India case upheld the provisions, some provisions of this PMLA Act. In 2018, this PMLA Act was amended in 2009 and 2018. And from then, there were many petitioners that were challenging the recent amendments or certain provisions, and also the powers of the Enforcement Directorate under this Act in the Supreme Court. So, regarding those petitions, the Supreme Court has conveyed its judgment that in which case Vijay Madanlal Chowdhury versus Union of India case, in which the Supreme Court upheld the provisions of this PMLA Act. So regarding this, we'll see what are the arguments of the petitioners and what the Supreme Court has said or responded to that argument. So now regarding the summoning of EDs, Enforcement Directorate, what the petitioners argued is that the accused are summarily summoned by the ED, that is Enforcement Directorate, and made to sign statements on the pain of threat of arrest, and ED assumed the powers of a civil court. So regarding the summoning, what the petitioners argued is that the ED has been frequently summoning the accused and forcing them to sign the statements on the pain of threat of arrest. So regarding this, how the SC has or Supreme Court has responded, the Supreme Court has said the statements were recorded as a part of an inquiry into the relevant facts in connection with the proceeds of crime, and these statements cannot be equated to an investigation for prosecution. So the Supreme Court has upheld the provisions that the signing of statements has been conducted as a part of inquiry. So this cannot be equated as an investigation for prosecution. So there is no wrong or no wrong in signing the statements or summoning by the ED. So this is regarding the summoning. And coming to the arrest part, what the petitioners have argued is that the ED could arrest a person even without informing him of the charges. What the petitioners have argued is that the ED has been arresting the accused without informing him of the charges, that is without providing a copy of the ECIR, enforcement copy of information report. Enforcement copy of information report, ECIR. Without submitting a copy to the accused, the ED has been arresting a person. This is the point the petitioners have argued. And regarding this, how the court has responded? The court rejected the notion that ED has been given blanket powers of arrest, search of powers, and property and seizure. The court has rejected that ED has been given blanket powers of arrest, search of person, property, and seizure. The court said there were inbuilt safeguards within the Act. The ED has been following according to the Act only. The inbuilt safeguards within the Act, including the recording of reasons in writing while effecting the arrest. And the court also noted that special court could verify using its own discretion if the accused need to be further detained or not. And court also said that the supply of a copy of ECIR in every case to the person concerned is not mandatory. And it is enough if the ED at the time of arrest discloses the grounds of such arrest. What the Supreme Court has responded? The Supreme Court has rejected that ED has been given a blanket of powers. It said that there are some certain inbuilt safeguards within the Act, and the ED has been following those provisions only, like recording of reasons in writing while effecting the arrest. And if any such concerns occur, the court said the special court could verify using its own discretion if any something wrong has occurred. And the court also said that the supply a copy of ECIR, that is enforcement copy of information report, is not equated with the FIR, that is first information report. This ECIR is different from this first information report. So this giving supply of ECIR is not mandatory in every case, and it is enough if ED at the time of arrest discloses the grounds of such arrest. So this is regarding the arrest part. So what the SC has said, the ECIR cannot be equated with FIR, and ECIR, giving a copy of ECIR to the accused is not mandatory, and there is just if it is necessary or it is sufficient that ED has to disclose the grounds of such arrest. And regarding the bail, what the petitioners have argued? They argued that the twin conditions of bail under this act rendered the hope of freedom non-existent for the accused. And they also argued that these twin conditions are violative of the fundamental rights under Article 21 and 22. So what are those two conditions? There should be reasonable grounds for believing that he is not guilty of such offense. This is one condition. To give a bail for the accused, there should be reasonable grounds for believing that he is not guilty of such offense. And what is the second condition? If the person is given bail, if the accused is given a bail, he is not likely to commit any offense while on bail. During the bail period, the accused is not likely to commit any other offense. So these are the two conditions, the twin conditions which are there in this PMLA Act to avail a bail. So the petitioners argued that these twin conditions are violative of the freedom of personal liberty. And regarding this bail condition, what the SC has responded, the court said that money laundering was not an ordinary offense. It was an aggravated form of crime the world over has. So the court has said there is a need for creating a deterrent effect through a stringent law. And even a plea for anticipatory bail would have to undergo the rigorous process of these twin conditions under this PMLA. However, the court said under trials could seek bail under section 436A of the Code of Criminal Procedure on the condition that if they had already spent one half of the term of punishment in jail for the offense prescribed in this law. So, what the petitioners have argued? The petitioners have argued that these twin conditions for the bail are against the constitutional rights, or against the fundamental rights, or they are taking away the personal liberty. And regarding this, the Supreme Court has upheld this provision by saying that this money laundering is not an ordinary offense, and to contain this money laundering, there needs a deterrent effect through there needs the stringent law, and even a plea for anticipatory bail would have to undergo the rigorous process, that these two conditions have to be met for giving the bail. And however, the court said if under trials could seek bail under this section 436A of the Code of Criminal Procedure on the condition that if they had already spent one half of the term of punishment in jail. So this is regarding with the bail aspect. And coming to the burden of proof, what the petitioners have argued is that the burden of proof resting heavily on the shoulders of the accused. So in this Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the accused should have the burden that he should only prove he is not guilty. So the burden of proof fell on the accused only, not the investigative officer or the ED. So with this regard, what the SC has responded, the Supreme Court said the provision did not suffer from the vice of arbitrariness or unreasonableness. So the burden of proof resting on the accused have a reason. This is not unreasonableness. And once the issue of admissibility of material supporting the factum of grave suspicion about the involvement of the person in the commission of crime under this act is accepted in law, the burden must shift on the person concerned to dispel that suspicion. So when a person is accused in this act, this regarding this money laundering process, the burden of proof should fall on the accused itself only to prove that he is innocent, to dispel that suspicion. So this is regarding the burden of proof. And coming to the attaching a property, the petitioners argued that they objected the powers bestowed on the ED to attach a property as a proceeds of crime. They had contended that even properties which were not proceeds of crime could be attached by the agency. So what the petitioners have argued is that the ED has been attaching the properties which were obtained through the illegal activities. If this property is not gone through the process of this money laundering process, means if the property has been acquired through the illegal activities and that property has not been converted into the legal property or legal means of earning, these properties were also been confiscated or attached by the ED. So this is the argument with respect to the attaching a property. And regarding this, what the Supreme Court has responded? The Supreme Court has said Section 5 of this Act, which concerns with the provisional attachment of property, cannot be used by the agency as mechanically. Authorities under this Act cannot resort to action against any person for money laundering on an assumption that the property recovered by them must be proceeds of crime and that a scheduled offence has been committed unless the same is registered with the jurisdictional police or pending inquiry by way of complaint before the competent forum. And the court said that the provision provided a balancing arrangement between the interest of the accused and that of the state. Further, if the accused was eventually absolved of the crime, no further action could be taken against the attached property suspected to have been linked to the crime. So this is regarding the petitioner's argument and the reaction or response of the Supreme Court regarding the attachment of the property by the Enforcement Directorate. So now we have seen, right, what are the petitioner's argument and the Supreme Court judgment in this PMLA. So what is the case which regarding this PMLA Act? That is Vijay Madanlal Chowdhury and Union of India case. And what are the provisions in which the petitioners argued and the SCS responded? That is on summoning, arrest, bail, burden of proof, attachment of property. Yes, that's it. Now coming to this Enforcement Directorate. It is a specialized financial investigation agency under the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. In 1956, an enforcement unit was formed in the Department of Economic Affairs for handling exchange control laws and violations. And in 1957, this unit was renamed as the Enforcement Directorate. And ED enforces the following laws, that is FEMA, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 and the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. So this is regarding this Enforcement Directorate. With this, we'll end this session here. If you like, please like and share. Thank you.